Alright, so hi, it's Hannah here, up in coming at you live from my apartment here on this Friday night. Um I took a look at the article that we were supposed to read, and I saw some very interesting points in there. One of the first things that caught my eye was the quote, long before computers entered schools, other technologies promised to cure the ills of an ailing educational system. Um, and in that section, they spoke about how when Thomas Edison invented the motion picture, how he said that technology was going to revolutionize schools and learning and things like that. And then it went on to talk about how in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, when television and radio were still relatively new, how people thought that those technologies were going to revolutionize education as well. And I guess I didn't think of it like that before. I knew that those things had been invented, but not, I never realized that they, had to, like, I guess, implement them in classrooms, just like they're, implementing computers now and tablets and things like that, into public school systems for the kids to use in order to work on projects and do research and all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty interesting to me. Um, and then it went on to talk about some of the one of the problems with using technology in the classroom is that you never quite know what's going to happen, for sure, with it, because there could be some kind of malfunction, and the Wi-Fi might not work one day, the computers just might be broken. Who knows? That actually happened a lot in my senior year of high school, because my county had just implemented this program that involved every kid in all the schools in our county getting a little miniature laptop to use in class with them. And each class had its own class set of laptops. So you were supposed to be assigned to a number that corresponded to a laptop, that you would go to the class and get out that number laptop every single class. So you didn't carry the computer with you, they just stayed in the classroom. And particularly in my AP government class my senior year, my teacher had planned for us to use the computers a lot, but because they were so new, and my school was built a really long time ago and it had just undergone a lot of renovations, the area and the school where we were had, I guess I don't really know how to explain it, but the Wi-Fi never really worked. So she would make a lesson plan for us to get on the computer and do something interactive with that, but it never worked because the Wi-Fi was always down. So she would act frustrated about it, even though, I mean, after the first couple times it happened, I kind of predicted that was going to be a common theme in that class for the rest of the year. She would just teach off like a PowerPoint that she had used in a previous year. Hold on, I'm gonna pull a Marco Rubio on you. Um, so that's a huge thing. Another going kind of along with that is the fact that since you don't really know when certain technologies are going to work and when they're not going to work, it talked about the chalkboard, and it said something about the history of the chalkboard, and I was like, history of the chalkboard, okay. It was it just kind of talked about how they started using chalkboards in classrooms, and I guess I just kind of thought that was something that was always there. I never really asked anybody about it, like my grandparents or my parents or anything. Um, but I never really thought of it in that way. And but whereas technology is kind of unpredictable. Um, a chalkboard is always going to be on the wall, and you're always going to be able to write on it as a teacher. So in reality, your chalkboard and your chalk, or your whiteboard and your whiteboard markers, are your pen and paper, which to me is the most reliable source of communication, because with cell phones and with Facebook and Twitter on the computer and everything like that, like you don't I guess you don't necessarily know if your messages will always go through, but if you wanted to get in contact with somebody, it might take a while through snail mail, but snail mail is always there. Pen and paper, good old-fashioned way to communicate, and it's a good old-fashioned way to teach and take notes as well. I take all my notes on paper. I can't type I can't type my notes, because then I know that I definitely won't retain them as a learner. So there was that. And then another thing they talked about that was intriguing to me was the author mentioned that there had been people who had talked about how one day technology was going to be so advanced that there wasn't going to be a need to have a teacher in the classroom anymore, and that the computers would just do the teaching. And I think this is absolutely ridiculous, because number one, you never know when the technology is going to break or malfunction or do silly things and just decide not to work that day. The teacher will always be there and always show up for their job, hopefully. And then there's the idea behind creating some kind of technology that would be able to understand and comprehend the human psyche, which is something that humans aren't even really able to fully do. So how is it, my question in response to that idea is, how can a human create an imperfect human that does not fully understand the entirety of the human mind and understand every single person's experience as a human being on Earth? How can someone create a robot that can do that? Like, you can't give a robot the ability to feel feelings and understand emotions and be empathetic towards other human beings. That's just not something that I think will ever be possible. I mean, maybe I'm a skeptic, and maybe I'm underestimating the abilities of some human beings out there who are highly intelligent, who have been developing this technology at a rapid rate. Maybe I'm just underestimating them. But to me, I don't think that will ever happen. I think there will always be a need for a teacher in the classroom.